I'm now recording. I'm going to go on mute and black my screen.
Bye,
Thank you,
Kayla.
All right.
Hello.
Welcome everybody to our virtual, what's this? I guess our second virtual hall board meeting. We don't have a very long agenda tonight, really. I hope everyone's had a chance to look at it. So I guess we'll start with an approval of the agenda. Is there anything, we've got the big thing we really have to talk about is the reopening meeting that happened the other night. Just want to bring everyone up to speed on that and have a discussion about reopening and what people think. Is there anything else people would like to see added to the agenda?
No.
Nope, nothing.
Great.
That looks good.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So hearing that, can we get a mover and a seconder for
I'll
the
move.
agenda? Melanie. Okay, great. And
I'll
Monica,
second.
second?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, good. I noticed council had fancy voting cards they were holding up in the for their meetings, but I guess we'll just go with the, oh, John's got his, he's reaching for his card.
Hey, there we go.
There
I
we
can
go.
make one.
Oh, a request to speak.
That's pretty fancy. Oh.
I'm too impulsive for that one.
All right. So is there any opposition to the agenda that has been moved?
No.
Great. Hearing none, we'll move on. Moving to the disclosing of pecuniary interest. Is there anyone who needs to disclose a pecuniary interest tonight?
Nope.
No.
Okay. Great. And approval of the minutes from May 28th. Recommendation to approve the minutes. So they've been posted as well. Is there anything that needs to be changed on the minutes? All right, hearing none, we'll get a mover and a seconder for that.
I'm a mover.
Thank you, Melanie. Seconder, John, great. And all in favor of that?
Aye.
Yeah.
Hi.
Great. Just to keep you on your toes. Good. Okay, thanks everyone. We're moving down. There's no business arising. There have been no rentals, so there will be no rental update. Karen, do you want to give a brief financial update?
It will be brief. Last bank balance statement I have is from May 28th. Our balance at that time was $79,394.38. Since our last meeting, I've only written 2 checks, all in accordance with our budget. Creemore Springs for $805.64, and City and Country Pest Control for $339.
Great.
That's about it.
Okay. Any questions for Karen about the financials?
Nope.
Okay. John?
Yeah, do we still have City Country coming in once a month or every other month?
I believe
so.
they were coming in once a month, yeah. We're still writing them checks, so.
So they better be showing up.
Hope so.
Yeah.
I was in the other
They've been sending me
day.
the invoices.
Yeah. I was in the other day just to check up on the hall, and I didn't look in the traps, but the traps were still out, and yeah, so but I didn't see anything crawling around when I was there, so I did notice the water system was beeping, so I notified Terry and folks at the township, but yeah.
Good.
Okay, so moving on, I think that the first thing on the agenda there was the Small Halls Festival. The Small Halls Festival has been canceled. There's no real, I don't believe there's any real update there. I think it had been officially canceled at our last meeting, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't think there's anything to follow up there. So we'll move on to the reopening. So we had a meeting on Monday with, well, I was there, John was there. There were folks from almost all the halls, just a couple of absences, and we had a pretty good discussion on reopening the halls. And the township is prepared to offer some help. They have received a grant, and they can provide us with some PPE, some plexiglass if we need it. They answered questions about the hall capacity if we are having indoor and outdoor events, signage, things like that. We talked quite a bit about kind of people's comfort level, I guess, for lack of a better word, and also kind of expectations of the township. And the main upshot is that we don't have to open right away. They're not going to force us to open. They are fine if we pass a resolution saying that we are, we're not going to open. They also said that, like, for some halls who have a church group or a regular rental, that they would allow the halls to open for just those rentals. So it was, I felt it was a really good meeting in terms of kind of answering questions, just listening to us, understanding some of our concerns and things like that. They talked about having a new waiver as part of the hall rental agreement that outlines mask wearing, capacity issues, things like, cleaning. I asked about, if someone rents the hall and uses during this time and uses the kitchen, and they use our dishes and things like that, what are the expectations for making sure that everything's been properly washed and sanitized? There wasn't really an answer on that. They're not really the township isn't really developing a policy on use of the kitchens, how often washrooms need to be cleaned. We talked about the fact that cleaning needs to be done by someone who has insurance and is a proper contractor in that way. So anyhow, there's a number of challenges. There's a lot of things to consider. Yeah, the numbers. Oh, one thing, the numbers is kind of important to note. So if we're having that maximum of 50 people at indoor events, that's only for your guests. So if we have, volunteers or staff running the event, if you will, those are not included in your patrons.
Oh, that's good.
So they're over and above. So if we had some kind of a barbecue or some kind of something outside, it would be 100 people plus. And I also asked, can the volunteers use the hall if we were to we needed to put whatever potato salad in the fridge so it wasn't in the sun all afternoon, or we had pies in the fridge or whatever. And they said that's fine, but as soon as we opened up the hall to use the washrooms, then your capacity would go down to that 50 number.
That's really interesting. Yeah,
you can't have like an indoor-outdoor event and have 150 people. It automatically defaults to the lower number. So, so there's there's a lot of complexity and nuance to it. I'm interested to hear what people think, how people feel about it. They were also going to I think Amanda was going to do a little bit more research. I asked about like the idea of having the hall kind of, if you have a rental on a Sunday and you have it just kind of rest for 2 or 3 days and nobody goes in there before it gets cleaned or before the next rental even, or before someone goes in and checks, is there a sufficient amount of time, or is there a recommended amount of time that a building or a surfaces, I guess, are left to just sit so the potential virus can die on its own? And she was going to look into that. She didn't know that. But anyhow, I'm curious to hear what other people think about it, and just to kind of get your thoughts.
Do we know if there is any demand? Like, is Claire getting any calls, people looking to rent the space?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't have the answer to. I don't think there is any demand. I was curious of that myself, Karen. Yeah, I know like some of the other halls that have church groups and regular rentals, they've been contacted by those folks to see when they can get going.
It could also be a matter of people waiting to see when we open up again to start booking. But I think you're right, Karen. Like, yeah, gotta judge
I
it.
just can't imagine putting a lot of resources into opening if there really isn't any return on our investment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then there could be a second wave and we just get ready to go and
Yeah.
we're shut again.
Shuts down again.
My concern is I think Claire's the one that shows the hall for the majority of the time and is there for the rent. And if she's not on this call, I would hate for us to make a decision without her.
Yeah.
My initial thought is no, I would not want to reopen at this point.
Yeah. It's one thing to put yourself in potential, risky situations if it's, for an essential reason or your primary job. I find it a little trickier as a volunteer.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think if we were to open, I think it would have to only be bookings, like no events, no just small bowling parties. You know what I mean? Like nothing. And even that, I agree with you, Karen. It's not worth reopening just for that if the demand isn't there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if someone had a small wedding, you're right. Like it's a question for Claire, really. I mean, if somebody had like a small wedding that they really wanted to have it happen this year, then maybe, I guess. But I'm with you guys. Like I don't think that we need to open by any means, and I really worry about the position it puts all of our volunteers in, even if it's a private event. Like, yeah, Claire's going over there to show it and lock up and check everything when people leave. So it's the whole, and then
who's responsible for cleaning? Like you asked. I mean, well, it would be the insured cleaner, but like how often and how far between? I have heard on CBC it's 9 days of rest, but who knows, right?
That many.
Yeah.
Well,
and I don't imagine Sally, our current cleaner, falls under WSIB.
Mm-hmm.
She'd just be self-insured right now.
okay.
Yeah, that's one of the other questions, is that the insurance and the WSIB. We're going to have to look more into that.
Yeah, and you almost wonder if that's almost a discussion that we need to be having on a larger scale. Does it make more sense to have a company or one or two people who are kind of clean for a number of halls, and we do an economy of scale thing.
And know all the standards.
Yeah.
And then it's who's been where as well for tracking, right?
Yeah. Another thing we did talk about, or that was mentioned, I think you brought it up first, John, actually, was the idea of having a sign-in sheet too. Because one thing that, if you had an event or if the hall was rented and there was 50 people there, and there was some kind of a need to do contact tracing, having a logbook of people who'd been there. Now, presumably, if it was a bowling party or birthday party, or even a small wedding, you would think people would know and they would be able to keep track. But anyways, it adds another layer of complexity, right?
Yeah.
So
You got to have a ledger there, because you're there. You know everybody that's there, and as soon as something happens, you're going to miss one person. You need that paper copy. Every time somebody goes into that hall, it's got to be dated, and everybody's got to sign in. So in 2 weeks' time, when you go back, you have the paper copy to notify anybody if you have to.
right. Okay, is there anybody else have any comments? I think
I think it's
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's important to note that even if you decide, say you don't want to open right now, there's nothing saying that in a couple weeks, when all of the protocols change again, that you can't split back.
Thanks, Kayla.
That's really
Yeah,
good to know.
That's an important point too, right?
Mhm.
Yes, thanks. I think based on the discussion, we're leaning towards standing pat, I guess, at this point, staying closed.
The only thing that makes me a little concerned, Bill, and this is my little paranoia side, my little dark angel, I guess, on my shoulder here, is that with how long we don't know how this, COVID situation is going to carry on for. I just don't want the lack of numbers to reflect on, booking and booking in our hall. Like if we choose not to reopen and suddenly our numbers don't compare to other halls in regards to usage, I hope that doesn't reflect on any kind of decisions in the future regarding our hall. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't get the sense from our meeting on Monday that was going to be the case at all. There was no
Wonderful.
There was no pressure.
No,
There
again,
was
that's just a little paranoia.
Yeah, no, we were reassured by Terry and Amanda that that the meeting basically on Monday was to help us if we needed to open. They wanted to kind of understand some of the nuances. I raised a number of concerns with the spacing issues that exist within our getting to the washrooms. Like, I don't know how you'd have more than one person in each washroom at a time, and even passing each other in that hallway on the way back. Like, there's not 6 feet of room to go side by side there, so it would there's a traffic issue there. And then where do you, like, there's so many things. Even, I mean,
you're right.
Even sanitizing bowling balls between people throwing them, like
right,
stuff like that, like sanitizing the pen at the ledger book, and I, not to be too go down the rabbit hole too far, but there is a number of issues and it's complicated. And I don't think like there's a lot of people beating down the door to rent the hall right now. And, we're not spending any money. We're not spending any money right now. Like, it's not like we need to make money to do any capital projects or that sort of thing, or pay for whatever. And our bank account is healthy. So even if we didn't rent like until next year, if we were closed for a year, I think we'll be all right. Yeah. The township's not going to foreclose and put a for sale sign up on the building, making payments or whatever, right? So, yeah.
I think just to clarify to Monica's point about I assume that you're kind of going towards the small halls review.
Yes. Thank you.
I think it's my feeling anyways that I don't think that they would be looking at any numbers during the pandemic. I think that's a wash across the board. So they're very concerned. I mean, these hall boards are run by you guys. You're the volunteers. So if you don't feel comfortable, if the community doesn't feel comfortable, I believe not only the township, but the community will rally behind you and agree with your decision to remain closed if that's what you choose to do.
That's great to know.
And to further that point, Terry's already mentioned that if you do decide to remain closed at this time, the township's not going to go behind your back and use your hall for a function or anything like that. They're going to respect your decision to stay closed and support you.
It did reflect that way in your sorry, in your notes, and it does seem that way. It does. I do get that feel, and thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Great. Okay, so how should we word? I guess basically, why don't we make a motion to have the hall remain closed for, I guess maybe until the next meeting. Let's do it that way, so that, you know, and if we meet in 6 weeks or in 2 months or whatever, we can reevaluate then how we feel.
Good.
Yeah, that does sound good.
So would it be fair, Bill, I have a motion here, motion to remain closed for the time being?
Okay.
I mean, I'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting. We can discuss it every single meeting if you wish.
Sure.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
It'll be evolving, so yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
If
just
something
go-
does come up in the meantime,
changes so fast.
we can
Sorry,
meet
John.
and follow the
Okay,
chair
yeah.
anytime, right?
Yep. We have to give 2 days notice. Is that right, Kayla, for a public meeting like this, something like that?
Yeah, that's the proper process so that the public's aware of that the meeting's going to occur, and if they wish to attend, they can make arrangements to do so.
Okay.
Sounds
Alrighty.
reasonable.
Okay, then, so the motion will be that the Avening Hall Board recommends the hall remain closed for the time being. Sound good? We have a mover and a seconder for that.
The mover and the shaker.
All right, and Monica. Okay, good. And all in favor?
Me.
Yeah.
Aye.
Good. Okay.
Yes, I'm good.
We'll consider that motion carried. Is there any other business to discuss at this time? All right. Next meeting is on the agenda was Thursday, September 24th at 7:30. Is that a good time frame for folks?
Yep.
Just looking. Yep, looks good.
Okay, perfect. All right. Hearing nothing else, we will call for a motion to adjourn. Sorry, I'm just looking at my calendar too.
Yeah.
Great. Melanie, Tina, saw you raise your pencil. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Stay
Take
safe
care,
out there.
everyone. Yeah, you too, Bill.
Care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.